Well, hey there, Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon here in the Room to Room Weather Center, tracking that potential for storms on your Friday. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. This is going to be what we call a forecast discussion. I'll mention this perhaps a couple of times as we go along here. What we're going to do is we kind of look through some things, kind of analyze overall some things, and sort of figure out exactly kind of how all things are going to play out. But you're going to kind of in real time watch me kind of sort through some of the information, and there are some things that obviously have changed. As we talked about at 10 o'clock last night, timing has shifted a little bit related to this, but the location maybe has shifted a bit more. So we'll wait some folks to come in. This will be a little bit more interactive, probably earlier on than some of our typical live broadcasts here. But while I'm going through and kind of familiarizing myself and kind of forecasting in real time, you'll kind of hear my thoughts as we go through this, as we refine that eventually for our broadcasts. Hi there, River, and everybody for, again, watching us, liking and subscribing here on Mississippi Live Weather. We appreciate all of your support. We'll give a few folks to come online here again a minute ago. As we talked about last night, again, with that shift toward the south and east that we saw on our models, as you can see here, the locations in northwest Mississippi somewhat clipped out of that and then shift southward. The reason for that, more fuel farther south, the bigger impact related to how this will all end up playing out here. Appreciate again Caitlin for coming in here and says you need to know when to pick up the dad and bring him over to the house. You know, here's the thing. There is a possibility, there is hopefully a greater likelihood than what we were looking at yesterday that maybe that's not something we have to do out of this. Certainly some good indications on the way this is playing out. Hopefully that continues to be the case. And I'm behind the scenes here kind of playing with some things as well as we're kind of getting ready for this so that we can hopefully have the interactive part of this where we have some of your comments, some of your chats also in with this as well. Probably won't have it up on the screen this time around, but we'll be working on that eventually here as we get more into this. So now that we've given some folks a chance to get on here, let's talk about this. Here's our severe risk area. Midday update again, wind. That's today. Sorry, let's get that on there. We'll talk more about that. Damaging wind, the main potentials again for tomorrow as far as that's concerned. Tornado risk, similar locations, but kind of like, it doesn't look like that is updating. So give me just a moment here to force that into update mode as I've been working on a whole bunch of different things here behind the scenes. I think that should be, display 3. There we go. So we've seen the tornado risk again trimmed a little bit farther toward the south and east associated with this, kind of based on the positioning we're looking at there. And so that trimming that we're seeing related to that comes directly back to the greater amount of fuel and instability for thunderstorms farther south, right? So this has been a trend. We talked about this at 10 o'clock last night on Mississippi Live Weather. If you didn't check us out then, obviously, you're getting that information now. But the overall model trend has been a little bit farther south. We're going to look at some of the kind of grosser ways to look at this. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but the less pretty on-air ways to kind of talk about some things here as well. Again, if you're tuning in a little late, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon here with Mississippi Live Weather. So we showed something similar to this last night at 10 o'clock, one of the behind-the-scenes sort of forecast projections. What we're looking at here is a bunch of different models. That's what each of these are. Different name there, different model, different ways in which they run, different things that they're good at, different resolutions. But one of the takeaways I want you to instantly see on here is the positioning, right? So Tupelo would be right about there. I'll put my thumb where Louisville is. So Tupelo and Louisville, or maybe Tupelo, Columbus, right like that. Okay, so first thing you'll note here is that the positioning of these storms. So we talked about building the wall last night, right? If you have the overnight thunderstorms that flare up and they're heavy enough, they diminish the ability for moisture to make it farther north, right? So in this case here, that wall on a lot of our projections could limit the moisture return farther north and thus hopefully limit our severe weather potential in North Mississippi. I think there's a good chance of that. We talked about at 10 o'clock last night, that trend, that direction. So GDPS, GFS, you'll notice if I kind of put my hand, see if I can get the orientation there, just right, looking at that. So that's about kind of where a lot of these projections have that morning batch of thunderstorms, right? Golden Triangle-ish, close to that. I mean, a few farther north and west, as you can see when we get to some of these higher resolution ones. But the takeaway is most of these are at least averaging out to a pretty similar spot there. Now, there are some that aren't, that are farther north and west, but the vast majority, I would say, about 80% of them, all kind of in that zone. So as I go back here and show you that tornado risk, that's directly where this comes from. Is if you imagine that this has kind of built that wall of moisture with the morning storms, which then limits how far north the moisture is able to return with this storm system. So I think that could be a limiting factor, and I think that will likely keep the majority of severe weather and honestly the majority of the tornado threat to our south. Now, things obviously could change. They have obviously migrated that way over the last 24 hours. So could they come back north? Absolutely. But this is an encouraging sign. And it is an encouraging sign because of this. When we look at, give me a moment to get up the right thing in here. I'm going to look at the surface map here. So give a moment for this to populate. Yesterday we had this front come through. We talked a ton about the impacts from that front, right? All the way out there in the Atlantic now. So that frontal boundary right there, as that kind of extends back into our area, that acted kind of a northward extent on how far, really, how far south that moisture got pushed, all the way down to the coast. And so now we're waiting on that moisture to start returning northward. The storm system, you can see, pretty strong back out there on the plains, and continuing to kind of drag in with it again. It's going to bring in a lot more moisture, but some severe weather and some tornado warnings out that direction where they have stronger winds aloft today. As we bring it in a little bit closer here, I'm going to go to something different. We're going to look at the moisture. Specifically, we're going to look at something called the dew point, which if you watch us during active weather season, you know I show a lot. So let's make this a 12-hour loop. Widen that just a little bit. Show 12-hour loop, and I actually might need to go to something different, so we should go 24-hour. In fact, that's what we're going to do. Wait a second here. We're going to do it that way. Analysis. National dew points. Let's clear off all of my jibber jabber we're putting on there. And we'll make that, I wonder if it, I don't know if it'll go back all the way 2 days. Let's see if it'll take me back. I think I'll get 1 day out of this and the act cuts out. Okay, so we'll just, 24 hours is good enough. Because that kind of gives us a reset point from where we were 24 hours ago, or at this exact moment yesterday, right? I'm going to have to drag this naturally. Okay, so that front came through, and you kind of see how we're in the greens. That means moisture, but more moisture, a lot more moisture. That's the way these colors go on here. A lot more moisture farther south. Okay, so as you can see, the blues have come north, especially look out on the plains, where they've really shot northward over the last 24 hours. And see how quickly that shot northward, by the way? If you're looking at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon down around Waco with the leading edge of that blue, by 11 p.m., that's all the way up Wichita Falls. And then by this morning, when they're having severe weather that direction, as you can see, those would represent all the warnings, even a couple tornado touchdowns they had in Oklahoma with this. That moisture made it all the way up there in a big hurry. So let's reference here in Mississippi. Okay, and I'll click off that dense fog advisory for whatever reason that's kind of highlighting again. But you can see our front kind of through, the drier air largely in place most of tomorrow and yesterday through yesterday evening, and then now today that moisture is starting to return. It's doing a more effective job of that in Louisiana and the Delta. There's less friction there, it tends to move more northward more quickly. That's something we absolutely expect. But this is the limiting factor because these values are going to have to get considerably higher for thunderstorms to become strong to severe, and I think that's one of the things that hopefully holds us back from that potential. So let's talk then about more specifics, and we'll dig here into some of our shorter, let's go short range model first. So this would be our future cast, and let's make sure this goes the right amount of time. Yeah, next 15 hours. Does a pretty good job developing and showing where those storms are to the west. In fact, let's go back here. Give me a moment here to kind of correlate that on Mama Justice Doppler radar, make sure that kind of lines up, and so we can get some takeaways. First off, first thing immediately gets my eye on here. Yeah, there's some yellow with this out there toward Oklahoma and Arkansas. I don't have anything particularly strong on that, right? That's despite the fact that obviously they did have severe weather out there, including tornadoes earlier today. But look at what that line looked like when it produced severe weather, right? About toward Chickasha, Oklahoma City, Guthrie, Oklahoma. When that's out there trying to produce tornadoes, that's a lot heavier than if we forward it to right now, when there's not a whole lot left, right? So that's a good comparison on reality versus model analysis. So in saying that, we go back over here, and we'll pull back up, similar view on the same model. Model's overdoing the intensity a little bit, right? On this kind of prefrontal trough, the actual cold front hanging behind it, this frontal trough there, the reason we kind of plot that on there, it's an area where there's just a wind shift. Sometimes you might call it dry line certain times of the year. But it is overdoing the intensity of the storms just a little bit on our HRRR model here, so keep that in mind. What that also does, as you can see, is that just has these sporadic showers and thunderstorms into tonight, heavier up to the north, again, more deeply into this severe risk area. And we do expect overnight, as moisture return continues, we get a little more lift, that more of these thunderstorms will get a little bit heavier. But most of what I'm looking at on this is probably sub-severe. In saying that, we'll look at wind gusts, specifically the accumulated wind gusts, that maximum wind threat here in a moment. There could be some gusty winds out of these. Most indications are those would be what we call elevated storms, meaning they form a layer above the boundary layer at the surface, and so that means a lesser tornado threat with them. So that's typically what happens in this scenario. We'll look at that in more detail here in a minute, because again, this is a forecast discussion. And I point that out to say that I am forecasting as we're discussing this, if that makes sense, right? I'm not coming in knowing what I'm going to say. As we're looking at this, I'm formulating my opinions as we go, all right? And then we'll further refine that for our 5 and 6 o'clock broadcast as I look at more and more things. But we're discussing this as a forecast as we're going along, if that makes sense. I should be able to pull up, let's see here, R2R. Yeah, let's go this graphic here, as I plot this back toward the front. Give me a moment. So this is what we would call sometimes model reliability, and this is actually a HRRR model, not the strike at the top there. So give me a second to fix that as we go. And I am going to probably stop here after this, look at some of your questions before we kind of continue on. So if you have questions that you'd like to ask about, post those in the chat there for our Facebook viewers out there. Appreciate that. Oh man, you know what I didn't ever do? I don't think I ever sent our push alert on the actual app. My bad. That's why we have Gabe to keep me honest. Let's pull that up there. There we go. We'll let people with the app know that we're having this conversation on social media. So again, join the discussion. Questions, let us know there as well. But this allows us to kind of look at the last little bit here as far as models are concerned on where it's placing rotation. This one actually is all up to date. Not up to date rotation. This is where it's placing the storms. And so you can kind of see good positioning on the latest, on the newer data on where it has a lot of those showers and thunderstorms, right? So let me make sure that I've got this kind of referencing 6C max categorized. Okay, let's make sure the color table is good. Color table looks good on that there. So it looks like that's kind of overlapping. Interesting. Okay, so positioning, you get an idea on the positioning there. For whatever reason, I don't think that's loading in. 1860 surface, max categorized. It's not that if I delete all three of these out, it doesn't change anything. Interesting. Okay. Well, so that graphic didn't show what I wanted to show. But that's fine. That happens from time to time. We will save that, and we'll look at that after we get done with this. So let's pull up a longer range version. Let's just jump right to the rotation one. UH. So this would be 12Z. So this would be this morning's run of the HRRR model. And I'm layering the storms as well as what we call updraft helicity, both on the same projection here. Give me a second. I can grab my water here for a moment. Okay. By the way, for folks who are kind of coming in on the app, I just wanted to, say, hey, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpond. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. This is what we call a forecast discussion. So sometimes we're really on exactly what we're going to nail. I'm forecasting as we're talking through this here, which is something we did, prior to launching Mississippi Live Weather quite a bit when we do those discussions. So you're going to hear my opinions change a little bit as we go along. In the chat on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, questions, you can put those in there, and appreciate Fulton, Columbus, Greenville, or Guyville there, Louisville, all for tuning in. Someone's asking what does sweatshirt mean. Sweatshirt means that I clearly don't think we need to be on the air with bad weather yet, but this is just how I kind of live my life as I forecast and we get ready for the day. So looking here at storm rotation again overnight, one of the things that we were looking at kind of before we sent out that push alert a minute ago in this discussion we're dealing with here is we kind of have this line of thunderstorms overnight in our HRRR model that does get pretty hefty out there, and these are probably going to be loud. Could have maybe a little bit of rotation, but I think these overnight threat, I'm not impressed by the tornado potential, and here's why. Let's look at this. So 4:30, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, there remains a possibility that the strongest storms that some of you get tomorrow are actually in the morning here. So I showed just a little bit of rotation on some of those thunderstorms. What's interesting is the shape. It looks kind of nasty there, if I'm honest, on this one near Columbus. Like, that looks like a supercell on the front end. So we're going to watch that very closely tonight in later broadcasts. But that looks like one that if this were instead 6, 7 p.m. as opposed to 5, 6, 7 a.m., that would be an extreme difference between the two. So why does that matter? What's going on? Why do we need to consider that for a moment? So in the early mornings, the atmosphere, the way in which it's typically structured, we find ourselves a little bit more stable. So I think it's a lot less likely, even if we're getting a little bit of rotation out of this, it's less likely to stretch that rotation down to the surface. Is it impossible? No. But I would say less likely. And I will say, I'm going to be doing the morning show for Maggie tomorrow morning. She's on a trip. So I'll be in covering whatever this is tomorrow morning early as these thunderstorms move in. And we'll pop on the Facebook and YouTube and, every place there, as well as on the app early if we need to. And we'll just kind of leave it on if that's what we need to do and just kind of send some push alerts as things sort of change. So we'll be tracking this, whatever this is. But I think at this point here, these are going to be loud. They're going to be heavy. There could be some gusty wind. They're less likely, though, to produce tornadoes because of the time of day. That just doesn't necessarily work in its favor. But not impossible. Again, that's where that limited tornado threat comes in. To that point, before we go too farther, I know we did bring people in a little bit late. I do want to get do at least a little bit of an overview here. Severe weather risk. For those of you that saw us at 10 o'clock last night, you heard us talking about how we had some concerns on the northwest side because we had built that wall down south where we had that precipitation kind of cutting off the flow to the north. That has been something that led Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma to kind of trim this severe weather risk back a little bit. And in particular, when you start looking at the tornado risk, shifting that slightly farther south because of the lesser amounts of instability that we have versus farther south. We have more instability south, we have less instability fuel for thunderstorms north, and that's kind of what we're digging into in more detail here, looking at some of the higher resolution stuff. So again, back here to that storm rotation, where we also have precipitation on there as well. Again, early in the day, some heavy thunderstorms, and that is, I mentioned kind of building a wall. This, to a certain extent, kind of sets the stage for, look at this, just even the dots there, representing the wind into these. There's a lot more of that on the south side there than what we have kind of on the north side of this line. And so it kind of shows the cutoff there between where there's a lot more moisture down there. So you'll see on this projection, we kind of see a little bit of a break, more storms kind of developing midday, and look at this into the afternoon and evening. What do you not see? Anything, right? I think we'll have more thunderstorms, and you can see later into the night some of those that do try to form and do try to continue, but those are mainly south of us, right? This is a very sharp transition versus what projections had at this time yesterday, and this is just one model. But we're going to look at some other models as I'm again forecasting as we go along. By the way, out of the corner of my eye, I see Kay White saying, "My kids get on the bus at 6:20 a.m. May be a skip day. My storm anxiety is bad." Let's say this. I would not say tomorrow needs to be a skip day. That's not what I'm saying at all. There will be thunderstorms. You'll want to wake up earlier and check out what we have to say on this. But I'm not thinking we're at a, keep kids home from school. Now, there could absolutely be some strong wind gusts, things like that. But as far as keeping kids home from school tomorrow, that's not where I'm thinking this one lands. But again, everybody has to make your own call on how you want to handle that. I'm going to take that same graphic here. If you give me a moment, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to change models. So give me a moment to bring up that what we call updraft helicity. I'm going to bring in our strike model. So give me just a second as I kind of populate that here. I want strike, and we'll go latest on that. Enter. I'm going to have to do this 4 times. Here, so give a minute. We're going to go strike, enter, and strike. Oh, but it's changed to like temperature. Oh man, hold on. I thought this would do it easier than this. So we're going to do something different. I have another way to show strike, and so I'm going to do that instead. So let's delete that and get rid of it. Yeah. We're going to hop straight to... Yeah. Here we are. This. So I have cloud cover also on here. Let's get rid of cloud cover. Okay. So you can see this strike model has, again, has quite a few of those morning thunderstorms there still popping up. Strike tends to be, at least according to some discussions with folks that have been using it a little longer than I have, tends to be a little too far north from time to, north from time to time, but not in all situations. But this one here, as you can see, pretty clearly showing, again, golden triangle where we still have the majority of those storms. This does have it farther north than we were looking at on that projection a moment ago there. But what does this not do on this projection? This does not build the wall, for lack of a better way to put it, right? I have a few thunderstorms down here. Again, similar spots to what we're looking at. But this gets us kind of an open warm sector here. We have a lot of thunderstorms that by midday start developing out into the delta. And clearly, even on this projection here, regardless of what you want to say up there, you can just kind of see with the rotation tracks, they are strongest to the south. There are some back in here in Louisiana. I'm really interested to see if this secondary batch there can really end up developing like that. I think that's aggressive. But it does still have some of those late into Friday night and early Saturday morning still in our area. But I think this is probably too far north. And here's why. We're going to go to an uglier version of all of this. We're going to go back to this one here. Again, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching a forecast discussion here on Mississippi Live Weather. Appreciate everybody for watching us. Big cuz out there. Love y'all too. Houston, Amory, all across North Mississippi here. We track the northern third of the state of Mississippi. So pretty much everybody up to the Tennessee state line, out to the Mississippi River, and back, including our counties in Alabama. Even though we're Mississippi Live Weather, still do Franklin, Marion, Lamar, and Pickens County like we always have. So, again, on this kind of cruder look here, maybe cruder is not the best way to describe it. We talked about this a minute ago, kind of building the wall. Looking at this, if there's a spot here, these are all different model projections on the top. And most of them, if I just quickly go through it here, there's a similar location where most of these have that at. As we pop ahead here to midday, same time period we're looking a second ago, most of those projections are farther south, with almost all of these, right? Leaving the northern part up here, yeah, there are some that are closer. So I would say it's not exclusive. I'd say it's more 50-50 on where it sees that midday kind of redevelopment, right? I'm going to supply that text message real quick here. I did. Okay. So as we look now, let's go say 6 p.m. That's too late. We're going to be able to get 21Z here. I have less models that show up at that point. But this is kind of the interesting part. Okay, so we have that wall initially there, and there's some of these projections that are like, man, by, say, this would be 3 p.m. Friday, so getting out of school time, right? And look how far south some of these very high resolution projections have it. I think, again, I think that's wrong, straight wrong, but how wrong? I mean, that's a ways south, right? Like this one, where's it at? That's way too far south. But I mean, Meridian, that's reasonable. And you can see here, we do still have some that are kind of up here. But this, as we talked about last night, I want to point out this. Okay, so we show right there. Look at that model. Pay attention to this time there. When we look at the ones that are farther north, they tend to have a 00Z there. Why does that matter? That would be a model run that took data that came in at 6 p.m. last night. And so that's an older model run. So farther north, older model runs. If you watch even, similar model dynamics between those two there, and you'll notice the one that ran at, I guess I could just use my finger to point. That works too. The one that ran at 12Z, which would be at 6 a.m. this morning, is a little farther south. So all indications here of a trend farther south with the afternoon round of showers and thunderstorms, and then questions about redevelopment. That's kind of the next question. So if we don't turn over the atmosphere up here in North Mississippi at all, do we have enough fuel up here for that secondary batch? And that's something that our strike model got real aggressive on, is that secondary batch, right? So let's look here about the secondary batch potential. And here's the thing. I do see, looking here, this would be a time frame. This is the European projection. It's a little lower resolution, but it's a great model for long-term mid-range. But we're looking here, this would be at 6 p.m. on Friday evening. And I'm watching back here into Texas. It has also grabbed a hold of the idea that there could be additional development back southwest related to this that could then yield maybe a secondary chance there. Let's see how other projections go. GFS is all the way back up here north. This is also starting to see on our HRRR model more thunderstorms back there in Louisiana that could develop, and those could end up a little farther north as well. So what we could end up with here, now this projection says NEP, and this would be this morning's HRW, but you can see how, you can kind of throw this one out because everything else has something back there and that one doesn't. So that tells us that this one's probably not behaving as well, because if you have 100 idiots in a room, you still have 100 idiots. But if you have 100 wise people and one person disagrees, 99 might be right. It might be wrong. Sometimes that happens, but usually the 99 wise people end up being right, right? So we use that same idea in model forecasting as well. If there's something that's completely different than everyone else, we log it in our brain, and we see if that trend shows up in other projections, in the same projection going forward and other projections going forward. And there are a couple here that do have very little activity back there behind, but a lot of them do have additional development back there. So that makes me think that one of the things that could be tweaked on this substantially is timing. Timing will be tweaked because positioning has been tweaked. So just kind of looking at that, most of these have, again, something else back there. What that something else is, let's find a projection here where we can show that. Again, you're watching Mississippi Live Weather. This is a forecast discussion, which means it is not clean, it is not precise. Well, it might be precise, but it's not quick. Because as we are talking about this, I am forecasting this as well. So this particular projection, I'm going to have to force all these back to 12Z data. Enter. That's fine. 12Z. Enter. 12Z. And one more graphic here. Everything I have is set up to, work in the evenings or work in the early mornings, and nothing's set up to work at noon because we typically don't do noon broadcasts. Okay, so let's come back over here to a prettier version of this. I'll bring you back in here just to kind of normal chroma key for a second. So this has, again, most of the thunderstorms back all the way into Texas. What this doesn't, oh man, this doesn't show what I hoped it would. Which is that we do have kind of a, there we are, this kind of warm front that's draped over top of us, right? And so moisture kind of coming up to that, this could be a lifting mechanism. Some warm fronts are wild cards. A lot of times they don't produce anything of severe weather significance. And then you get that one time where you have a storm that kind of hangs onto the warm front, and then you get a tornado chance off of it, right? So south of that warm front, still plenty of fuel here as we're kind of looking at, say, 6:30 p.m., 7 o'clock. But you can see clearly the majority of the activity, majority of storms, central Mississippi as opposed to North Mississippi, right? But I think what's going on back here in Louisiana, which ends up being fairly impressive, could be underdone on some projections, because I think consensus is showing quite a few of those. How far north does that go? I think we can solidly say up here, Memphis, northwest Mississippi, Senatobia, back toward Tunica, up toward Olive Branch. A lot less likely to have something significant and severe than locations farther south. But I would say that this means that our window for severe weather has probably extended deeper into the night, right? Possibly all the way up to midnight, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning for locations around the Golden Triangle. So what has happened is we've taken the top end of the event, and we never thought it was a high-end event. Let's go back to, again, that graphic kind of showing the risk area here. As we've talked about multiple times, this was never going to be up here at level 5. But what we've done is we've kind of taken, for the northern part of the state, and we've taken the top end and we've reduced down the potential somewhat. You're not going to end up in a level 3 risk up here, Senatobia, Memphis, up toward Corinth, or even Tupelo. I don't know that you end up beyond a level 2 risk for a lot of locations here in the southern part of the area. So we've taken the potential top end, which was never super high, and we've brought that down. But in doing so, we've spread the event out where there's more time frame that we have to watch it for a lesser overall risk, if that makes sense. So, with that in mind, let's go back here again to the graphic, and let's kind of work our way through a little bit of rough timing for you as I kind of solidify my thoughts on this. So again, early in the day, prior to dawn, we're going to have some thunderstorms. Heavy, arguably strong, maybe some strong wind gusts, maybe something that jostles us and we're like, there has to be a tornado warning on that. I don't know we're talking about tornado touchdowns. I really think that would be pushing it. I'd say that's not terribly likely, but again, not impossible, but rather unlikely. Okay, so then I think during the day, a large portion of North Mississippi, with the exception of locations down here, Aberdeen, Kosciuszko, Columbus, back toward Canton, and you're central Mississippi there, and Jackson. But I think this zone down here, middle of the day, and we'll look at that again one more time here in a minute, maybe you're going to have some storms, but the majority of it is south of us. And then as we go into the late evening, overnight hours, again, same locations down here where we could potentially see a storm produce damaging winds and a tornado. I think more likely in some of those locations in that time period there. But overall takeaway, in my opinion, is I'm not impressed by this setup, and I feel infinitely better about us getting through without significant severe weather versus I did yesterday. We weren't high on it yesterday, but it looked like things were ratcheting up. Well, things have come down a little bit since then. But unfortunately, if you're one of those folks hyper concerned, like someone like, man, I'm really scared of storms, I'm going to stay up with you all night long, this is one where we're going to be up a little bit later because of that. Because that threat will extend later into the evening than it did before. As I kind of re-rack a few things behind the scenes here for a moment, one thing I would recommend is that if you don't already have it, that you pick up Mississippi Live Weather Call. It is a phone alert that lets you know if you're in the danger zone there for as far as severe weather is concerned, tornadoes. It'll let you know, it'll call you back if there's confirmation of a tornado for your area, for significant severe weather, winds, as well as hail, things of that nature, and of course major flash flooding. Pick up Weather Call. Highly recommend it for you and your family to keep you guys safe if and when there is severe weather. I'm going to now, again, give you kind of a full timeline on where we're kind of thinking at this point here. We will have updated information by our 5 and 6 o'clock broadcasts. Model data comes in all the time, and some of it that I'm used to more looking at for that time period comes in a little later, but just trying to do a little midday update here as well. So we'll bring it back in here and give you kind of our look at this time on Futurecast. And again, storms by this evening, stronger out into Arkansas, but as you saw a moment ago, somewhat overdone versus what the reality of the situation is right now. Okay, so as we progress into, say, this evening and tonight, for some locations, your heaviest storms, I would not at all be shocked if we get to Saturday morning and someone's like, my heaviest storms were the rumbles overnight leading into early Friday morning, late tonight, as opposed to tomorrow night. And that's absolutely possible that for some locations, the heaviest is then. But if that's the case, then you're missing out on severe weather. That makes sense? You won't end up getting the worst of it. So storms continuing to kind of progress through and obviously make for a fairly rumbly-bumbly overnight period. Some projections have a little bit of rotation in this line early Friday morning. I am not high confidence that will be something of major significance that we really need to worry about, but clearly something that we will have to watch closely. But I feel pretty decent, all things considered, about what we're looking at with that there. Give me a moment here to try to clean that up. Okay, let's see if that. Yeah, it still looks lower resolution for one reason or another, so I apologize for that. I'll have to figure that out after the broadcast. Okay, so as we go through the morning commute again, I'll be on your screen tomorrow morning. I'm meteorologist Maggie McCauley off for the day, so I'll be in doing the morning show, tracking that early morning round of showers and thunderstorms out there. At least 6:30 a.m. We might get in earlier, might leave it on, might just do some talking back and forth intermittently before that. It'll just kind of depend on what the radar looks like. Then, as you can see, the majority of activity south of us. But notice what's interesting about this is, again, a main severe weather threat south. But watch how thunderstorms get going near this frontal boundary here and start kind of lifting in. And wherever this front is, we'll have more strong severe thunderstorms. I think this could be too far north on this projection. But we'll continue to probably have some thunderstorms, again, strong to severe, primarily Golden Triangle southward, as we head into tomorrow evening, with most activity out of here 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then much drier and cooler air behind this as we look into the remainder of your weekend and into next week. CAPE. I'm going to pull up another thing here, because we're just going to keep showing stuff apparently, as I'm kind of working through the forecast. Looking for one particular. I'll try this. There we go. And I need to work on my naming conventions. Okay, give me a moment to pop that in. So this is the fuel that we talk about all the time. Fuel for thunderstorms, what helps them to develop and become strong to severe. I want to point out a contrast I instantly saw there a second ago. Notice how much brighter this is. This is our long-range projection as of early this morning at 6 a.m. That is our newest run on this model, the newest thing that I can show you. Now I'm going to bring in the latest here, and this only is a short-range projection, and notice how there's a lot less. Also notice it's a little farther east there, as we show it toward Grenada. And this is, again, picking it up where the conditions are at this exact instant here. So a little farther east on the fuel, but considerably less fuel than what I'm showing you here, because this is being the newest run that we can show you on this one, and looking at the fuel. And you can kind of see the impact there where you can kind of see the storms that will form here. Time frame, let's go 36 hours. So early in the day, a decent amount of fuel, most of it south, and then you get thunderstorms to start to develop. That's what's kind of eaten into some of those storms there. And then all kind of falls apart in the late Friday evening. There's less fuel to go off of. And this is that projection that, again, has the majority of activity, again, to the south. So what you'll notice here is there are spots where there's virtually no fuel all the way through this on this projection. So if we're looking for a question of what will change, by the time we get past Friday morning, that fuel is primarily confined to the southeast portion of the area and then out of here. So it's one of the takeaways that make us think, again, the severe weather threat diminishing somewhat more on this for the northern part of the state. Could we see a shift back northward? Absolutely a possibility. On about 7 occasions, I have said that we're going to look at your comments, and I've done a kind of poor job of that as well, so I apologize that. Appreciate y'all for watching us in Detroit and all over the place. Let's look back through some of your questions here as well. So I think a lot of rain and wind, tornado touchdown, very unlikely. That's pretty well, Chris Stevens kind of putting in his information there, his thoughts there, and we appreciate, there's so many people in our chat that help other people answer other people's questions. I'm not going to agree with absolutely everything they say, but I do appreciate the folks that get in there and try to help out. Weather anxiety is a real thing, and I think people that look at this tend to come to a fairly decent consensus, especially on this kind of forecast stuff, like what we're talking about here as well. Hey Siri, text Ethan. I guess I could just click. What would you like to... Just click reply. Actually on live right now talking about it. So sometimes people are like, man, I wish I could have your number so I'd call and ask you questions. And usually that's the same answer I tell you, even if you have my number. It's like, well, I'm live talking about it, or I'll be live talking about it in about 30 minutes. So we don't usually answer all those questions like that, even if you do have my phone number. Let's see here. Earliest it'll start. We could have some in the morning. Less likely have a tornado threat there. Appreciate Corinth and Blue Mountain, Saltillo, everybody for watching. There will be storms tonight, but again, they're early tomorrow morning and most below severe limits. All I need to know is, am I going to need to leave work tomorrow? I live in Ecru, work in Tupelo, hate driving in storms. I understand where you're coming from there, Christy. I think that there will be some thunderstorms around still, but I would not be planning early dismissal from work or anything else tomorrow at this point. Not based off of this. This is not a high-end event. This is not a high-confidence event. I'm not interrupting any programming, so we're just sitting here talking about it. Otherwise, it would not be this long of a discussion if I were on a television station. Let's just say that. Because this is a forecast discussion, and I'm basically making my forecast and my thoughts as we go along. I'm going to kind of wrap things up here in a minute. Watching from Houston, appreciate everybody for wanting to watch, wanting to support us here all around the area. Yeah, kind of looking through that. If you have a few more comments, put those in. I'll be on the lookout for those here in a minute. We appreciate that. Time tonight, we could have off and on rumbles overnight. There is nothing that concerns me. I think this graphic does the best job of showing that of almost any I can show you. There's nothing that concerns me as far as severe weather tonight. Really at all. But when I look toward early tomorrow morning, the only time frame I can start to make some arguments is once you get there, say 6, 7, 8 in the morning, because that's when we start to get some of this fuel. Now this is what we call CAPE, convective available potential energy. It is what we call surface CAPE in particular. Why is that important? This is the amount of fuel available for thunderstorms if that thunderstorm starts with air that begins at the surface. And in order to produce a tornado, that's the kind of CAPE, convective available potential energy, we look for. So the important reason to show that, let's add something on this, because I think this would actually do a great job of showing this. And we might be getting to preview something I show on air tonight, because I think this could be a great way to explain this. So let's go back in here. We're looking for maxed reflexivity. And then we're going to green start, green start. There we go. And now I'm going to partially fade this off like that. And it's fade off a little bit more like that. Okay. So you know how we were looking at those storms? We're looking at those storms early in the day that that had some rotation with them, right? In particular, I spent some time and I called out that storm in Columbus, right? Right there. Because it kind of has the look of something that could be rotating, right? Okay, if I delete off that layer I just added in, notice how there's almost no surface-based cape. Meaning, is there fuel for thunderstorms? Yes. So the graphic line, no. This is surface-based fuel. And it's just one of those nitty-gritty things that when we have to try to condense this into a reasonably timed forecast that we don't say. So this is surface cape. So the point in saying this, there's enough fuel for the thunderstorms to go. But as you can see here, there's not enough fuel for surface-based thunderstorms to go. All of that to say, these morning thunderstorms, while they'll be heavy, they'll be loud, there might be some hail, there could be some gusty winds, there might even be some rotation, they might even prompt a tornado warning. Based on an early look here, they're less likely to produce tornadoes, in fact, very unlikely to produce them as well. The beauty is that we have an app here that we can cover that if we need to. So you can stay with us again here on Mississippi Live Weather for the latest on any issues that we have related to this. But again, pick up the app. Make sure you have multiple ways to find out if you're in the danger zone, and we'll be in good shape either way as far as that is concerned here. So Kennedy, Alabama, appreciate you, Jason Porter there, for watching us. Jasper, Alabama as well. Again, appreciate all of the folks here that watch us from Alabama. Kind of looking at our map here, even these morning storms, I think, again, they are likely elevated. You see, once we get in kind of this orangish color there, that's where we have enough fuel for what we call surface-based storms. And even then, when we kind of have the later storms coming in later in the afternoon, you can definitely see into the overnight hours, the fuel is down south. And that's why, as we kind of revert back here to our risk area, in particular tornado risk area, everything else, that's why this risk area is primarily south for most locations down that direction there. So the southern portion of the area more likely to kind of see some impacts as far as that is concerned. Hopefully that makes sense to a certain extent. Okay? Well, our next broadcast here is going to be coming up today at 5 p.m. Our next live broadcast. We broadcast every day of the week at 6 and 10. Monday through Friday, 5, 6, and 10. And then, of course, I'll be on this evening, 5 and 6 o'clock. I might not be on at 10 o'clock because I will be on in the morning. So I'll be on 6:37, 7:30 a.m. I'll be on a good chunk of tomorrow as well as far as that is concerned. So check us out here in the Room to Room Weather Center any time period during that time period there as well. One last thing before we go. We've talked a lot about it. And I think it's an important thing in this scenario to talk about. That is weather call. And the reason weather call is important is because nothing I said matters if you don't have a way to know that you're in the danger zone if it happens to happen to you. So weather call is the way to do that. There is a $15 cost per year. That's just because making phone calls costs money. And so that's just something that I think it's an alert that I have from my family. So I never have to worry about, do they need to go to their safe place? Because I know my voice will call and it will say, hey, this is Mississippi Live Weather Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. A tornado warning has been issued for your specific area. Take protective action now. Seek shelter in the lowest floor of a sturdy structure away from windows and stay there until you can be given the all clear. And you'll get that phone call in that about exact same pacing, in almost those exact same words in my voice telling you what to do and where to go if you're in danger. The good thing is you might go the whole year and not get any one of those. It's the best $15 you spend to not hear anything. Because you spend that 15 bucks and you never get a phone call, something's gone pretty right for you. So anyway, recommend weather call and appreciate everybody for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Now here's what I would ask. Some folks still watching us there in the chat. I'm going to try to work on something here. And I think I can cut that to where it's on the screen. So if you will stick with me for a minute, hold on, I got something behind the scenes so I can actually see it, and then we'll cut it back on here. So eventually, this will be something I'm trying to build where I can have our chat back and forth on here as well. So why did it do that? Go back. Leave it there. Hopefully it'll stay on that. But I'm trying to, the kind of grayish sort of box you see here, That's where if you type something right now, within reason, let's be adults here for a second, but within reason, you type something, it'll actually appear next to me, and I'm going to try to configure that. But the only way I can configure that is if you're typing the chat. So I'm going to send the 24-hour channel back to regular programming. We'll run the outbreak here. I'll send it back to regular programming. If you'll stay with me here on the Facebook Live, on YouTube Live, and just say some highs, say happy Thursday, hope nothing happens, where you're watching from, that kind of information, let us know in the chat there. It'll actually pop up next to me here. But I'm going to run the close to this, and I'll be back right after that as we send the 24-hour channel back. So be back in just a moment.
As we move into storm season, here's something most homeowners don't realize after a storm. Roof damage isn't always obvious. Wind can lift shingles, breaking the seal. Hail can bruise them below, and flashing around chimneys and pipes can loosen without you ever knowing. That damage may not show up for months. If your area has strong wind or hail, a professional inspection will help bring you clarity before small damage turns into bigger problems.
You know, a functionality thing I never realized until this exact moment. I can't send the 24-hour chat back because it's going to pull whatever the feed is that I'm sending it, I think. Yeah. Oh, well, 24-hour channel stuck with me as well. Just saw a bunch of comments up there a second ago. This is kind of what that, at least temporarily, will look like. I'll kind of put that on the screen there. Appreciate everyone for watching. What I'm going to do right now while we're talking, again, keep it clean, folks. But I'm going to try to adjust kind of the preview on what this looks like, because I definitely think I need to make it to where it's a little more opaque. But I'll probably have something, I'll probably put a dark background behind it, as you can see there. Will weather call work in Hattiesburg? Yes, weather call will work everywhere here across North Mississippi. So appreciate everyone for, or work anywhere in the country, I should say. Chat background opacity. Let's try that. Top alignment. Scale. Let's try that. I'm going to try this. Hold on. Okay. Give me a moment here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to have to come over here into one of my programs behind the scenes. Lots of little stuff here that I'm learning. I've had to learn over the last 12 months to do this. And so let's update this, if you will. Stick with me. Paste. Okay. Okay, type something else in there real quick. This chat is for displaying messages. Great. You don't probably need it to be full size there. But that's fine. I'll probably have it go off the edge of the screen anyway. Okay. So, let me click that off. Let's see what y'all have in there now. Somebody else put something else in there where you're at around the region. I appreciate you guys for working with me while I try to kind of figure out what this is doing and learn how to do this. This is one of those things I can only kind of test with live ammunition. Do I think tornado watch will be issued overnight? Probably not. I don't feel particularly confident we'll see tornado watches overnight for tonight. Y'all doing a great job. Layers here. Let's edit that. Let's go ahead and zoom the size down a bit. Okay. Kind of adjust that up there. I'm going to need to zoom the size down a bit more. On the device, that's not bad. Appreciate an Adeton, Nettleton, everybody there. Rebecca, always been a fan since over there in Solent. Appreciate you and your entire folks there. Next question to ask you. See, that's, I'm going to have to change the resolution on that because that is like way too wide. I wonder if, come back to that here in a second. Let's leave that there. And we'll work on the width. Thank you guys for being my guinea pigs on this. And as if the last 6 months hasn't been completely guinea pigs, but you know what I'm saying. Change. Let's try this, and let's instead do, let's just do 1,000 on our width. How did that did not work. Oh wait, oh no, that definitely did not. We're gonna have to change that back to what it was before. So 1920 by 1080 gonna be the only way I can get that? A moment here, and that is back. See, that's stretched again. Oh, I see why it is. 920 by 1080. Okay, customize chat. How do I customize it where it's not as wide? Appearance, let's come over there. I'll bet there's something in the long description of it. Give me a moment. I'm gonna make a phone call while we're on here. I'll try to answer your stuff. Trial and error. Doing great. Appreciate that. There's a lot of what we do here that's trial and error. You just don't get to see all the trial and error. Give me a second. I'll call Dan while we're talking here for a moment. Hey Siri, call Dan Nyman. Or don't. Call Dan Nyman. So I'm trying to figure out why it won't. Okay. Hey, Grenada. Hope you're doing all right there. Nice to see you, James. I appreciate your patience. Hey, so I'm playing with live ammunition here for a second. Okay, your chat on the side there. Is it in Restream? Okay, how the width? My width is trying to go way too wide here. How do I like crop it where it's only so wide and then it goes to the next line? I have it in vMix. I mean, I probably don't want it. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. A little less than a third of the screen. Is it just somewhere in the code of the browser, whatever the token that it has that in there, or is it in vMix that you do the width? Because I tried changing my width there, but it's, if I change it from 1920 to 1080 or like shrink it in instead of and I'm also, well, I guess I'm doing it as a web browser. Do I need to be doing it as something else other than a web browser? Okay. 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 Okay, perfect. In order for us to have content, I have people continuing to comment on my live stream. So I've hijacked the 24-hour channel while we fix this. Someone says, I'm secretly cheering for Ole Miss, FYI. I would like to see Mississippi teams do well. Just do not tell my friend Sam that. He'll slit my throat. I also feel like it's hiding it more quickly. Hold on. It seems like it's hiding it pretty quickly as well. I figure hide after, do you have yours hide after a certain period of time or not? Okay. I'll click that off then. Let me copy that. Let's come over here and let's add that in then. Paste newest version. Okay. Now I'm gonna need somebody else to comment again. I appreciate, we got 132 people on Facebook right now that are just enjoying throwing stuff in the chat for a change. Appreciate that. Watching for Baldwin there, Don. Hey, thank you so much again for watching, for your support of us here on Mississippi Live Weather. I'll actually I'm going to move that over maybe a little bit more. Maybe we could put something more meaningful on the screen while we're kind of talking through this here. Yeah, about a third of the screen I think would be perfect. I'd love to say I'm joking that my friend Sam would, you know, come after me, but I don't know for sure. He's a big Mississippi State fan. That's for sure. Oh, we got some hottie toddies there going on. Can we get a hottie toddy? I guess no. Tell him Gabe Maynard. We're all just Gabe Maynard. Hey, he worked Gabe over this weekend about the whole, you know, being a Mississippi State fan and be like, well, it's okay to cheer for Ole Miss. I'll be clear here. If we were talking Missouri, I have a specific type of hate for the University of Missouri as a Kansas fan. I say mean things. Things that a good Christian man shouldn't say. Let's see here. Watching Louisville, appreciate their chastity. I can pull up something more meaningful on this screen here while we're talking about this. This is the severe risk area for tomorrow. Let's go again. As you saw a moment ago behind me there, the tornado risk shifted a little more south. And the thing to also take away, not much in the way of the hail risk to go along with that at all. Let's look here while we're at this, while we have a moment. Let's bring it up to the most recent run. Looks like 18Z. Oh, hold on. How much do we have here? We've got a full run there. Okay, now we've got something new to talk about. So while all your stuff is on there, Texas Longhorns. So Emily and I used to joke. Okay, so maybe I can't say what I just said about Mississippi State and Ole Miss fans not cheering for one another, because when I was in Texas, West Texas, my wife and I used to joke, you know, when we have kids someday, and she's a Texas Tech fan and I'm she went Texas Tech, I went University of Kansas, and we'd say, you know, someday when we have kids, we're going to send them to the greatest university on the face of the planet, the University of Texas in Austin. And it was just a joke that we always said. So the fact I said that, and she's a Texas Tech fan, Maybe I have to eat all my words as far as that's concerned. Hello in the Greenville area, Sharita there. We'll be covering you here on Mississippi Live Weather and looking forward to that. Hottie Toddy, Renee, we got a lot of folks there as well. Is there a way to chat in the app? No. But if Dan ever figures out a way, when I'm talking to him on the phone, I find a way to subsidize that. I say that, and Barron's just going to make money off it. But, yeah, anyway. But no, at this point, there's not a way to chat in the app. Hopefully, that's coming at some point, though I don't know where that is on the roadmap. I'll say closer on the roadmap is this Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, the yada yada yada. But, you know, whatever warning and alerts, that's not in place yet. Hopefully, that will come into play at some point. I think that's important because that allows you to know which beep is it. You know, it's just another beep like every other beep on your phone, which is why weather call is so important. Because it's not just another beep on your phone there. But yeah, Prairie, nice to see y'all there. Howdy in Nashville. Alexandra, nice to see you. Got the National Weather Service showing up in here this evening. Appreciate y'all in Corinth and Ayuka and everywhere else as well. Hi in Marietta. From time to time, we will have this chat, and we will have it. Do you want me to paste my link in there? Okay. I'm telling you, Dan's the man. Okay, is that something that people always say, Dan the man? Is that something like annoys you? Dan the weatherman? Do you want to be on, so here's the question, do you want to be on speakerphone or just in my ear pod? It's up to you. Speakerphone? Okay. Well, I mean, if you did say something bad, technically the FCC can't come after us yet. Okay, I'll put you on speaker. This is Dan Nyman. If you have heard us mention before, I'm going to make this a Panhandle weather commercial. How about that? You good with that?
Fantastic.
Weather.com. Okay, so if you're a person who goes to the beach, right? You like the beach. Beach is a thing you think is great. We have some friends, and Dan is one of those people kind of helping me out. You know, the whole way in which this whole experience has kind of happened here with you know, going out on my own, going rogue, if you will, if you want to say that. There's a bunch of other meteorologists that are doing this around the country, so we're not alone in that regard. And Dan works, is one of the owners of Panhandle Weather down in the Florida Panhandle. If you go down to, Destin, Fort Walton, South Walton there, that whole area, back to Panama City beach area, that's where they cover. And they do a spectacular job. They're doing the same thing we're doing. They have a 24-hour channel that's live. And as you know, the weather can take a big shift down there. Now, our app and their app in a lot of ways very similar. Similar alerts. But for live coverage, if you're ever at the beach, if you have concerns about hurricanes, anything like that, the folks at Panhandle Weather, they cover that. They do a great job. Dan is spectacular. Real slick-looking website and one of the smartest guys I know. Someday there's going to be a book written on the revolution going on in broadcast weather and TV, and Dan's name will be in that book. No question about that there. Just throwing that out there. That's all the praise I can give you. And he is making this look prettier behind the scenes here as well. Hey, Benton County, nice to see you there. The GOAT of Mississippi weather. Well, Chris Smith and Dan Nyman are the GOATs of Florida Panhandle Weather down there. They do an amazing job, long history of taking care of folks, and just some all-around great people to be a part of. Nice to see Egypt showing up there as well. McNeary County, Tennessee. Rhonda, nice to see you. Tremont as well. Any other questions you have as we're looking at? How are we looking for Columbus tomorrow? Columbus still more in the zone where severe weather is probable than other locations. There'll be plenty of rumbles in the morning if you're kind of joining us a little late on this here. But certainly things will get a little more rough as we head into the afternoon. But even then, I think the majority of activity largely is shifting more south. The funny thing about this is Dan probably gets more out of this than we do up here, don't you?
Out of this system?
Yeah.
We'll see. We're kind of crossing our fingers we can get some rain. It hasn't rained significantly here since Panhandle Weather launched in October.
Funny, that sounds familiar.
Unfortunately, it does look like the front as it gets down to I-65 from southwest Alabama in closer towards Pensacola. I kind of think the front's going to run out of gas.
Oh, yeah.
And the warm air is going to win a bit, so I don't know that we're necessarily going to see as much severe weather from it, but hopefully at least the western panhandle gets some rain, and then of course the low itself pulling towards the north is going to pull the dynamics a little north of our area too. So the good news is I probably won't see any real spin-up threat here. We'll be watching it, but the majority of what we would see, if anything, is probably straight line winds, and it's winter, so there's always a chance with a good updraft that we see some hail, but it's never anything like used to be, Matt. Pea-size hail is a pretty big deal here.
We don't get a ton of hail up here. When I was in West Texas, it was always gigantic hail. Luckily that has not been the case as often here as well. So that's been fortunate. I guess I should clarify that I'm on my computer. Yeah, I appreciate you putting in that one there. I was just playing with it on my computer back here at the house. So I'm glad that you're working on. He's working on the actual switcher computer back at the broadcast facility. Someone says I should stay casual in my clothes versus a suit. I don't know. And they also say need the suspenders. It would take. I'll be honest. Okay. And this is maybe going farther than I should on this, but this is gonna sound terrible. So after everything happened, about this time last year, I was fine because I had a feeling that I could probably do this, what we're doing here, and it would be something. And so I had handled it that day before it broke in the news and everybody knew what was going on, and I was fine. Until I walked into my closet and I saw my suits. And I turned around, this is so dumb. I turned around to my wife and I started crying. I said, but I love my suits so much, I'm not going to get to wear my suits anymore. So while Dan and Chris go more polos and khakis and a little bit more casual, I love my suits.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt.
There's just something about a suit that says, okay, we're going to do this.
I spent a lot of money, probably what would have been one paycheck on suits in small market TV. And I like a suit because I'm 26 going on 16 as far as appearance goes. And I have more credibility wearing a suit. I look older. People trust me more. But the viewers down here say, you live at the beach. Take that off. Look like you fit in. And so the suits are gone at Panhandle Weather.
The customer's always right. Right? Oh, that's funny. That's fantastic. So suits are gone at Panhandle Weather. You know, one thing that the customers did say up here that they mentioned, you know, it's like some of them were okay with the white t-shirt because I live in a white t-shirt until I throw that suit on. Like every day it's, you know, it's a white t-shirt and some pants. Is it khakis? Is it jeans? Is it, you know, shorts, depending on the time of year. Live in a white t-shirt until there's, you know, actual, you know, like weather, and then I go and throw it on right before we go on the air. But white t-shirt was a little too casual for some of them. And they're not wrong. Going from suspenders and a suit to white t-shirt, yeah, we'll see. Alex says like wearing those suits. And that's how they know it's serious when the suspenders on. The funny thing is that almost every suit I have in there has suspenders on it. And I actually had to, in the room I'm in here, block off the heat so it's colder in here, so that during severe weather coverage or before severe weather coverage on a day that's active, I'll still keep the jacket on. Because the reality is I prefer to just never wear a jacket and just always wear, you know, the suspenders and stuff like that. But I think having that, you know, there's just a formality as we talked about there that goes along with wearing the jacket as well. But personally, I get hot. I've reached that age, I get hot pretty easy. Let's see here. In my opinion, Amy wants to know what are the chances of tornadoes tomorrow? And I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not impressed by what we're looking at this point here. A brief tornado spin up is possible. We've just had, you know, Dan was mentioning they've had almost no active weather, no rainfall down there really since Panhandle Weather launched. Up here, it's been a similar story. We've had virtually no severe weather. The only like legitimate severe weather we've had some pop-up thunderstorms over the course of the summer, and those had some wind damage issues with them occasionally. We've had one event where we've had one tornado warning for Yazoo, out toward Yazoo County, and there was a brief tornado touchdown out there. Outside of that, we haven't had a whole lot as well. So this is as significant as any of those threats, but that is to say we have not had significant threats. That makes sense? So there's not a high likelihood of tornadoes. It's also not a zero likelihood of tornadoes as well. And the beauty of all this infrastructure here is that, you know, whether we're right or wrong on the forecast, we'll absolutely be there when the weather is happening. And that's one of the things that they've done down there in Panhandle Weather really well is that, you know, it's not just, yeah, I mean, it's disruptive weather, right? The threshold for cutting in a TV station is death. And maybe not death, yeah, but, you know, like true lives in real danger, right? Whereas at this, it is it disruptive enough? Can we do a service to the community, right?
I mean, that's the big thing with weather is, you know, us weather nerds love our numbers and love to geek out over things. And, you know, those numbers include things like what is a severe thunderstorm warning? Well, even though a severe thunderstorm warning technically doesn't get issued until there's a likelihood of 58-mile-an-hour winds or
don't you love that?
Large hail.
I've always loved how nerdy we are with 58-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, I know it's 50 knots, but still, it's like 58. What about 57? Doesn't count.
Yeah.
But you get the point. Yeah.
So a TV station would say, if the thunderstorm was producing 55-mile-per-hour winds, hey, buddy, you know, hey, family, you're on your own. We're not covered, and it's not severe. And you can't physically tell the difference. 45-mile-per-hour winds are pretty scary. 35 is kind of unsettling if you weren't expecting it. So we have a duty to keep people informed, even if there isn't a danger, because like you said, it's impactful. People want to know what's going on, and we have 24 hours to tell you what's going on.
Absolutely. And we have the best kitchen a TV station has ever had, right? Just right down the hall, which is one of the cool things about being able to do it. You know, and I think one of the things that I think you have down there, not everybody has, you guys and maybe the Arkansas guys, Arkansas Weather Network and us here at Mississippi Live Weather, only ones who really have this, is because we're decentralized. If Chris is sheltering from a tornado warning, you know, over there, you know, on 30A, you might not have to shelter and vice versa. Like you're able to each, keep covering it. There's not that scenario where we go off the air for the next 2 or 3 minutes because we're sheltering from tornado warning. If I'm here and he is, back there at the station downtown, one of us can stay on either way.
Yeah, and we have a backup version of the channel at my house. We have a laptop as well with Starlink, so if the internet's out for an extended period of time, we could still be live. One of the nice things about this path that Matt with Mississippi Live Weather is on, and all of these channels in the network are doing, is that we're really nimble. A TV station's hard to pick up and move somewhere else. You have transmitters and signals that are kind of locked in place, but if we have an internet connection, we can talk about the weather and pick our show up and take it somewhere safe. It's
great, and that's one of the things, again, we're doing tonight as well, where we're going to be live. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor and our Ethan Foster making his debut here on Mississippi Live. Going to be from our Game of the Week location. We have, again, the Corinth and Biggersville game tonight, and just excited for how that's going to play out. Our first little step there into basketball. So he'll be live there from the game, and we'll have highlights from that. We can send those back in real time if the time of the game worked out and if the game's a little later. But yeah, we can go live from pretty much anywhere, which is really cool.
All right, Matt. If you want to toggle your stream off.
Okay, let me give me a moment here. Let's put this back to something prettier. Okay, and now I'll let you go with that.
So I'll wait for your name banner to come down.
Okay. Now see how you do that the right way, where you use the different channels like that instead of me, where I decide that I'm gonna go into the layers and crop the layer and move the layer over there and just build as a different source. Is that what I should be doing, where I'm using the channels like that?
Layers are the best because you can stack different things on top of one another, and you won't be surprised by something being missing or not being visible, which is especially important with your advertisers, because it's like, we'll talk about the bad word, advertisers, Matt.
Ooh, don't say that. Someone was griping the other day. It's like, wait, so you've got Room to Room sponsoring the Weather Center. You've got Mama Justice sponsoring the Doppler radar. Yeah, we do, because there's the interesting thing about 2025 America is you're watching this at this moment and not a TV station, and you've got one of these in your hand everywhere. And they know that, and they want to reach them. And so the sponsors, the people that sponsor us here on Mississippi Live Weather, we encourage you to support them, and they'll continue to support us. It's really that simple. It's a numbers game for them. They know you're here. They know you watch. That's why they support us. You got to tell them that's the case as well, so that they continue to support us. But go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of folks hate commercials, me included, but they are important, and I try to tell people, and in the vein of let's not cover up the logos and stuff, Matt.
Yeah.
These businesses are not just sponsoring something for the views; they are helping something exist that helps the community. So they deserve a little bit of an extra surge of business from the community, because they're helping to keep the lights on for you.
Absolutely. I mean, keep local weather local, because the reality, and we're not going to dig too deep into this because that's a whole different discussion, but the reality is that corporate mergers in TV will continue to happen, and that might be a good thing and that might not be a good thing, but at least with local businesses, and it's kind of this grassroots effort, not just with us, Panhandle Weather, but a whole group of people around the country, back into Arkansas, into Louisiana, into Tennessee, back into Oklahoma, into Nebraska, I'm going to forget a state here, California, back to New Jersey. Which state did I miss? Did I catch them all? Missouri. Did I mention Missouri? Didn't mention Missouri.
Missouri.
So far.
Colorado.
And Colorado. And we'll have more and more people on that over the course of the next year. It's grown a lot in the last year. It's probably double in size again this next year. All locally owned businesses covering local weather. So the funny thing about the way I have this set up now is that I have my stuff configured to change my view in the studio here at home so that I don't have the delay issue. So I can't actually really read very well all the replies up there. Oh, and they just all cleared out.
Yep, I just added a shadow on the left side of that. looked a little two-dimensional to me.
There we go. You're a mess.
Put a little shadow on the bottom and help break it apart from the rest of the screen.
Awesome. What I will probably do is I will probably do a squeeze back with this. I will probably, and you don't have to do that. We all Choctaw County's thunderstorms tomorrow night. I think it's mainly going to be overnight tonight. We'll have some, again, non-severe early tomorrow morning, and then, tomorrow later in the day. Chances, again, flare back up, but most below severe limits. Sorry, I went too far down that limit, down that road. But I might even have you kind of remove the background so that I can put a different background behind it, and I just take care of it with the graphics instead. But that's pretty close. That's not quite my color blue on room to room there, as you can see with the logo, but it's pretty close-ish.
I think that's the Restream brand blue.
Gotcha. So we'd have to go transparent on that, and then I could just put it over top of something. Okay.
I'm going to see if I can find that in this. Yep. Give me 3 seconds. Change this word.
Okay. Telling you, kids, if you're watching at home, this is why coding's important. I try to tell this to my kids all the time. Dan can code. I can hack a code. But coding is around us everywhere all day long, whether we realize it or not. And so, parents, coding's important and gets used in almost every industry, and a lot in this one. I appreciate everyone for kind of sticking with us here as we're kind of hacking through this. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. This is, I don't know if you want to call it a tech session, but it is a time period where we're kind of working through some technical things, and you kind of get to see a little bit on the way the sausage is made, right?
It says background equals transparent, but clearly that is not the case.
Does it need to be refreshed? Is it just like a refresh thing? Amy talking about Restream is her favorite user for Facebook Lives. It does do a good job on that. Let's see. That looks zoomed way in. It might. Oh, that's also way behind. The one problem with Restream is its output, often gets pretty far behind. But now I just lost all the chat messages because I refreshed. Oh well. While he is doing that, I'm going to pop back here on my end. I'll
I
pop.
know why.
Huh?
I know why it's doing that.
Yeah, go for it. Let's see some other questions here. I'll see if I can kind of read. I'm going to have to pop it up a little bigger here behind the scenes, see if I can read some of your questions coming through on the chat that I have here. Some folks send him a Green Wave hoodie, Diane says. So I do have... So the story behind this hoodie is that I have a Titletown shirt that I got from the folks in West Point, and I had it underneath another jacket or whatever, just 'cause I think it looks cool. And I happened to wear that, to a Tupelo game, and they saw it, they're like, this is not going to do. We're going to have to get you we're going to have to get you some stuff. And they're like, here's a hoodie, here's a thing, here's something for Emily. Yeah. So, kind of the way that all worked out there. You can also pin comments under Matt that you want to highlight. But do I have to, I'd have to be over here in my Restream chat. Can I click pin? See, I have block, but I don't have pin on comments.
We'll see what we think of this.
Okay, now I need somebody to say something. Chat is... So is it...
I can't change the text color, so...
Yeah, no, it'll just be kind of white. Okay, I need somebody to say something now. Oh, and there's a few things. Just saw that come in there. So it's popping up boxes.
Yeah, and then we can go no box either.
Because I wish it wasn't like 1417. I wish it would say like 317. Don't do that. I'm sorry I'm making you do this with your day. I appreciate you helping. You had other people to actually help, and I'm sorry that I took you all off kilter like this.
That's the thing with helping. It's like it's full time now.
Okay, well, now I can fiddle with that as long as the rest of the key is correct on the HTML script, and I just need to know where to plop that in. Like I can tweak that stuff. See, I don't think that there's a way in there to change the time.
Yeah, I couldn't find it in that quick search.
Someone said new. So someone's saying new forecast. So I can't talk about that here for a second. Again, not a whole lot has changed from when we were talking earlier. Just some showers out west. Looking at moisture there for a second while we're talking about this. We can pull that up. Dew point measure moisture based on the same scale as the temperature. Clear cut where the storm system is and was earlier. And then looking over a 24-hour loop here, you can see the effect that this front has had, which has been substantial in shoving all that moisture south. And then all that moisture, watching it flooding back up there in the plains and throughout the central U.S. as well. And so we're waiting on the most dense moisture, most impressive moisture, the most significant moisture, and it's still way, way down there. So long ways to go. This is all part of kind of a system that's kicking through from the north and west. And honestly, this kind of first leg of it lifts northward. There's another wave back behind that that'll kind of be what really sort of powers our chances. But honestly, I mean, maybe this is the kindest way to put it. Like, things look about as good as I could hope for in this scenario as far as this is concerned. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. I'm going to have to click off of that and then click back water vapor. There we go. You can kind of see subtropical jet is a fun thing when that gets going. You see all the way back out there into the Pacific Ocean. That's that moisture and little waves in that part of what provides the overall storm chances, and then more significant system kind of coming in back from the north and west. Some snowfall out there. We haven't done the Ole Miss forecast. We can show the latest Ole Miss forecast there. Let's see here. Double check that. See if that is good. Yeah, Thursday 6:30. That one looking good there. So expecting that to be obviously one of the interesting things. Cooler in the desert than we are back here in Mississippi. Kind of fun how that works out. Not always the case. Hey, that's fine. What you have there is fine. My only thought is that I like the fact that you had more on there at the same time, because if it gets going, it could get going too quick. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm trying to basically what the background will ultimately look like once you've layered something behind it.
How do so what I did not build in is, while I stream decked it to where it would change my source here in the studio, I never actually built hey, I want it specifically it's A source or B source. I just built it into the automation. So now I got to figure out how I turn it back to the right full screen. I think display input 1? Nope. Oh, I know what that is. Input 2. Oh, because the call to station is different. That's why that's messed up. And by the way, if what you have there can be just good enough.
It's bizarre that I can't change the color of the text.
See, I like the compact ones like that.
Yeah.
Leave the opacity all the way off on that, and I will build the color. Like, I'll just add another layer if I need that, or I'll build something in GT title design. And that way, if I were like, oh, I like that, we'll just change the background. Is what I'll end up doing.
Just doing one last once over. There's There's no way I'm missing the option. I just don't think there is an option.
I don't think there is either. I think most people don't care as much as we care. I could be completely wrong about that. People care a lot. I appreciate everybody for watching here. Yeah, so this will not be full screen like this. I should explain. So we will have it where I'm gonna have this squeeze back to where there's an area to the side. We'll probably also have the hey, here's how you stay connected logos, all that kind of stuff. Will all be kind of in there. So this will squeeze back as part of that. We'll squeeze the content a little bit to make room for this. That won't take up the whole area of the screen. We'll probably say something like sound off. I don't know about that. I don't want that. I'll think about, the exact phrasing I want to describe that. Anyway. Let's see what we got in here. Hey, so I am live right now, just a heads up, okay? How are you? You want to come on here while I'm live for a minute? No, thank you, Dan. That's what she says. No, thank you. Oh, well. What can you do, right? Well, while we're at it, I'll keep forecasting. I'll look at a few other things here while we're at it. That's the far I want. You were right, by the way, on the positioning on strike. The Baron model was definitely a little north. I think that bias still holds true.
It's a bit bizarre.
It is,
It just overdoes how far the Cape can get this time of year, probably.
Maybe it's surface roughness. No, that wouldn't make any difference for you because you're right at the coast.
Most of our events so far, we've had like a warm front out of the south, which would make a difference. With like basically thinking that every single surge of warm, moist air is going to overachieve.
We're working on the chat thing.
Are you making everybody watch?
I'm making everybody comment so that I have things in the chat to talk about. I got the look, Dan.
Oh no.
The are you out of your mind look. Do you get that from time to time?
Pretty often. Just a workplace hazard.
Okay, let's try 18Z on R there. So again, as we talked about earlier, and there's not most unstable cape in here as well. It's just surface cape, right? I've never seen.
Yeah, I think you have lifted index in there, cape, but just like generic cape. I could really use downdraft cape.
Yeah.
I'll keep creaming.
Is it Baron that has the downdraft cape, or not downdraft, lifted index?
Yeah, free cape.
And vapor pressure deficit. Someone's asking how the wife and kids are doing. Everybody's good. New year, new everything. Someone says eerily perfect and beautiful weather outside there. Eric mentioned that. It is a pretty nice day out there, isn't it? Let's see here. Yeah. Okay, Amy says, and I'm sure that you've already seen this, go to the theme tab, select theme / colors, apply, which I think you did, right?
Yeah, the problem is, like, we're trying to have our cake and eat it too.
Uh-huh.
And so, for me to put this into some actual HTML to format it to the size of the screen we want, I'm having to use their pre-built
Gotcha.
code. It's just a little link.
Hey, you know what we have there? What we have there is called good enough.
Yeah.
I think
Their iframe is going to override anything I try to do with it.
Yeah, that's okay. You've got the width right. I will probably, I'm going to be shrinking it down to where vertically it's probably no more than 2/3 that size anyway. That will be fine. Actually, okay.
I'm going to refresh one more time.
Yeah, I'm fine. I appreciate everybody for bearing with us as we
Yeah, it didn't work.
play and learn and do everything. Well, see, that has no background on the messages on that one.
Yeah, and it brought the shadow back. I copied and pasted that shadow.
It's not, well, yeah, well, I guess we'll get rid of it. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. With that in mind, I think we'll probably go ahead and wrap this up here. We'll have an actual discussion that looks like something coming up tonight at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then 10 p.m. here. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, is going to be... hold on, what is that? Okay. Now that looks good. That looks fairly small. I like that. Gabe's going to be live at our game of the week, is what I was going to say. I know what I did. Okay, that makes sense. Because it makes me choose a specific thing. Okay, bye. Love you. See you later. Oh, and then I slid my thing in the wrong spot here and it's not updating, no wonder. Okay, my husband doesn't work if it rains. Will he get rained out by 4 a.m. tomorrow? Millport, his shop's in Millport. It'll probably be raining pretty close to that, if not a little before that. I think that's very reasonable. Let's show some actual weather here for a moment. Typically we don't have a whole lot. I mean, yeah, Millport, I mean, that's basically raining by then, right? So I'd say pretty good likelihood there that he's going to, early in the day, have quite a bit of rainfall. So that Amy probably would rain it out. Typically we don't have a lot of time for that. Love how the little girl doesn't want to come here and be on camera, but she wants to hang just right by the door. You're interested. Not that interested. Come here. Why not? She doesn't want to, clearly. Haven't seen my son as far as the eye can see, but that's like the third time I've seen her. She doesn't want to. Greenwood Springs, we'll have some overnight thunderstorms leading into tomorrow morning. Certainly better chances. Probably some of the heavies you see all day long then, and we're hoping this shift southward. That's what I'm going to be kind of between now and 5 o'clock kind of evaluating some of those sorts of things related to that. Okay. Tornado threats are less impressive than last night by a lot. We still have a limited threat there, but we're largely underwhelmed, all things considered, with it. But we'll have a cleaned up professional sort of look with that come up at 5. Now, if you're good with that, I'm good with that. What do you think?
I think it'll be good with background, like a little background. We'll put a squeeze back script in there, and it'll be good to go.
Absolutely. So you're just see. I was just gonna. What I was gonna do is I was just gonna make a new element, and I was just gonna put all my layers. I'll put a background on it, and then I was gonna put like I mean, just background graphic, and then just kind of put all the different parts I wanted to on top of it as different layers. Is that the wrong way to go about that?
So normally we have.
Yes. Is that how you end up with 190 elements in vMix?
Yes. I have a little thing in here, and you put a little script in, and it tells
Script.
your control says whatever is in output, I want you to squeeze that back and show the chat. And so when you press your button to pull the chat up, it'll put whatever you're already doing in that window. So it's.
Oh, okay. So in this case, that does make sense. Yeah. Okay, I got it there. Hey, buddy, how are you? Good.
Or you just put it on OBS.
Well, I've now seen you one time, so 1 is more than 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
You doing all right? You have a good day at school?
Yes.
Good. Good to hear. Good. What do y'all do?
I played a little bit of wiffle ball
Mm-hmm.
and football at recess.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
Awesome. Sorry, you were just saying, Leo. You were saying, Dan?
I don't remember.
That's fine. Okay. Can I go and shut this down, you think?
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Here, I'll talk to you in just a second, Leo. We'll talk to you all at 5 o'clock here. Thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live. Weather this longer than expected, but I'd say very productive session. That will eventually have a background that you can actually see it. It's not going to be up nonstop, but we'll have it up from time to time there. Thank you all so much for supporting us. Support those folks, the sponsors, like you see Room to Room below me there, and all those sponsors that run commercials here on Mississippi Live Weather. Certainly it helps us keep the lights on. And maybe just as importantly, it gives me that opportunity to see the kids when they come home from school, which is something 99% of people don't get, but I'm blessed to have. Okay? We'll see you coming up at 5 and 6 o'clock.